Under the House healthcare bill, do people with pre-existing conditions have coverage or not? This is what Trump recently said.
Pre-existing conditions are in the bill.
So I'm not hearing you, Mr. President, say there's a guarantee of pre-existing conditions.
We actually have a clause that guarantees.
And then in response to that, CNN host Chris Cuomo said,
there is a complicated waiver system that gives some of the states some more flexibility. They can opt out of pre-existing conditions under certain conditions.
So who's telling the truth? Well, CNN's graphics bar sure made up its mind.
Trump falsely claims pre-existing conditions covered in bill.
But it really should have said something like,
I'm sorry, this is far too complicated a subject to summarise in a few pithy words in a graphic at the bottom of the screen.
Better. You see, Trump was right. The House bill does force health insurance companies to offer coverage to sick people with pre-existing conditions. But Trump was also wrong. Under certain circumstances, they can charge you so much you simply can't afford it. So what are those circumstances? Well, first of all, under Obamacare, there's something called community rating, which means health insurance must be sold at the same price to people of the same age, regardless of their health status. But the House bill also allows states to get a waiver from community rating if they want one. Now, it's not clear that any states will even ask for a waiver because community rating is really popular. According to the Cato Institute, it has 63% approval to 33% against. But let's say you do live in a red state and they do ask for a waiver. Then you might have a problem. The next question then is, do you buy your insurance yourself on the individual market? Because the community rating waiver does not apply to people who get their health care from their employers or from the government. It only applies to these people on the individual market. So only these people can get screwed. The next question is, do you have continuous coverage? Because the House bill has kept Obamacare's guaranteed renewable rules, and that means your insurance policy must be renewable at a similar-ish rate regardless of your health status. So as long as you keep paying for your plan, you're fine. But if you stop payments for 63 days, then you drop your continuous coverage, and then in the waiver states, health insurance companies can charge you whatever they like. And remember, under this bill, subsidies for the poor will be reduced and premiums for the old will be increased. So your average 64-year-old with an income of $26,000 will see their premiums rise from $1,700 to about $14,000. And that's on average. So the poor and the old may not be able to afford continuous coverage. And that is when you might get screwed. But only if you have a pre-existing condition. Because you see, just before Obamacare kicked in, the federal government offered heavily subsidised premiums for anyone who was denied coverage because of a pre-existing condition. So how many people joined the plan? While Democratic Senator Kamala Harris would have you believe it was
129 million people.
The program actually peaked at 115,000. Throw in 200,000 or so who are on state-run high-risk pools at the time, and you have about 315,000 people thrown off their health insurance by pre-existing conditions nationally. But this bill's only going to screw the pre-existing condition people in waiver states, of course, so proportionately, we're probably talking more like 150,000 people getting screwed. But now, a few caveats. We don't know how many people with pre-existing conditions didn't join those programs. We don't know how many waiver states there'll be. There might be none. In waiver states, there'll be high-risk pools for the screwed, but most experts believe they'll be seriously underfunded, so they're probably of limited value. If the screwed people get really sick, they can still go to an emergency room and risk bankruptcy. Okay, that will do. Nevertheless, if you end up being screwed by this bill, then you will really get screwed. And you can put that on a graphic.